Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with my weekly wrap up, except this week I'm going to be going over 2 weeks worth of books. I just couldn't do it last weekend. Things kind of came up and I didn't have a ton of books. Most of them were fics for the fanfic readathon to talk about. But I want to quickly get into this because I have about 12 books, I believe, to talk about. And I don't want this to be super long since it's 2 weeks worth. So let's just quickly dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so just to kind of bring this up, last week I did a post, let people know I'm not doing my weekly wrap up. Don't know if anybody even really cares. But I had to post a long vlog that I did for the Pam Godwin book, and I put it off for months because of my storage issues on my phone, all this stuff going on. Because I live in the middle of nowhere. It's like I have to do everything on my phone because of my internet issues. So I ended up doing that actually on my computer, but I had to like go into town. That's because I live in the mountains, so we go into town to kind of go to Starbucks to upload it, and it took like over 3 hours sitting at Starbucks. And that was the day I usually film my wrap up, and I was just like, I'm not doing it. So I did have a ton to talk about because I did have mostly fics. And I am posting a fanfic vlog soon, so I'll have most of that there if you want more detailed information. So most of the fics that I talk about, I'm gonna try not to dive too deep into them because I have a vlog where I go over everything in more detail. So that vlog, I'm gonna try and shoot for that coming out this week. We'll see how I do. I've been really delayed with my vlog, so I do apologize. But let's go ahead and dive in because I don't want this to be so long. So this is for the last books that I've read for the last 2 weeks. Because the fanfic readathon was going on, I was primarily focusing on fanfic the previous week. So the first fic that I read was Winter Came with Fire and Blood. Now, I think I have a good graphic, but mostly the graphic that I've been using for the picture of it is Mel Bind's Fix actually has a bound one, and she had it on her Instagram. This is what actually made me pick out this fic because I wanted to do something different besides Harry Potter, and I love Game of Thrones, like love it, but I was infuriated with the final season. So I had a lot of anger. I still have a lot of anger about how that show ended, and this fanfic author felt the same way. So they basically kind of redid it from the battle with the Night King, and then gives like Jon and Dany the ending that they deserve. So this one was a longer one. It was over 220,000 about that words, and it was by Ellizablue. And I didn't notice this because I just saw it on Mel's Instagram and I was like, oh, I want to get that one. I didn't have any idea. I didn't even look at this. I'm such a newbie when it comes to getting fanfic, but I didn't even notice the rating, and it was like teen and up or something. So there's like no spice in this at all, but I thought it was really good. I'm not going to go too deep into it except because you can watch that in my blog. But we are actually not rating fanfics either because that's not what it's meant for. Jen has, kind of advised us because I'm a newbie that, fanfic isn't meant to be rated and breaking down. And, they do it for the pleasure of writing fan fiction. And so I will basically just tell you on all these if I recommend it or not. I'm rating them personally for myself just to keep track of where I have them, but I'm not going to do that here. And then we weren't posting reviews either on Goodreads. But what I really loved about this was it kind of did a twist on, like, see, if you don't know Game of Thrones, you probably won't even know what I'm talking about. There's so much to it. The prince that was promised. We have Dany and Jon both being Targaryens, the truth of who Jon Snow is. So I don't want to give any of that away if you haven't even watched Game of Thrones or read those books. But I really love the way this fic, this author really gave us Dany and Jon being together, getting married, kind of, and this twist, she ends up getting pregnant. And Dani never thought she could ever have children again. So she's pregnant with John's baby. And then they have outside forces trying to break them apart. And there's like a new bad. There was like kind of like a twist where like the three-eyed raven, if you know who that is kind of like the villain in this, which was very interesting. So I loved, her with her Drogon and, John and Dani. It was very sweet. There was a lot of brutality at the end with like the childbirth. So just trigger warnings on that. But it was so heartwarming and just feel good. And I cried at the end. So I would definitely recommend this, but just be aware that you will not be getting spice in this. Okay. All right, so then the next one that I read was Isolation, and this is by Bexchan. I listened to a podfic of this. It is available on Spotify. So if you want to listen to one, I had a great experience with this one. And this is a Hermione one. This one I loved. And in this, I'm just going to give you a quick setup because I don't want to spend too much time on this video. But in this is kind of like if Ron and Harry were off trying to hunt down the Horcruxes, and Hermione was kind of left at school to try and do research and help out that way. So they're off hunting down the Horcruxes, and then we also had just had, the death of Dumbledore and everything that went on with Draco. And so Draco and, Snape had done the unbreakable curse, like the vows, so that they are like Snape is responsible and tied to him to keep him safe. And Voldemort is upset with Draco and kind of hunting him down. So Snape brings him to the school to kind of be hidden. And the only place they can really hide him is in Hermione's room. She is like the head girl of Gryffindor. So they basically are forced to share these quarters together. And Draco has a lot of hate towards, muggles and all this stuff and the way he treated her before. So he does have that learned prejudice from his family that coming into this. So they do butt heads a lot. But then like she slowly tries to teach him like the realities of the world. And I just really loved seeing Draco realize he was completely wrong and like really start to fall for Hermione. And so the first half of the book is kind of them in the school doing this. The other half is basically kind of does everything. There's just minor changes, because of their relationship and who does what, but it kind of does that final battle in Hogwarts. And so I just really loved this. I loved Draco and Hermione in this. They were so adorable. It has some good spice in it. And it was fantastic. So I highly recommend this one. It is really well done. Okay, so then I did a one-shot, which is like kind of like one chapter. I think this had a couple chapters, but it's basically a novella, basically. So I did Make Me Malfoy, and this is by Ambperstand. And I've read Ambperstand before, and I really liked the fic that I read previously. This is just a really quick, spicy, hot Hermione, where like he can tell that she wants it rough and wants a little bit of the CNC and that kind of action. And he's like, ask me for it, beg me for it, and I can give that to you. So she does, and basically it's all out fun sex times. It's fun, it's quick, it's super spicy. Some of the stuff we have is like CNC, rough sex, edging, somnophilia, cockwarming, exhibitionism, bondage. And there was a great scene where Theo watches. Oh, by the way, in Isolation, one of the standouts in that too was Theo. Like I freaking loved Theo. And I think it was in Isolation. It was a couple of them. So Theo was like a side character in a few of my fanfics, and he ended up being one of my favorite parts. So if you guys have any Theo fanfics that you recommend, let me know, because he was like a standout to me in these fics. So that one I really had a good time with. I would definitely recommend. Just know it's no plot, it's smut. That's what you're there for. Okay, so sorry that was some of my fics, but now I read an arc. And that was The Prey by JL Beck. This is the fourth book in the Oakmount Elite series. This is the second part of the duet for Sebastian and Elise. And I loved, I think it was The Predator, was so good. I'm trying to remember. Was this The Prey or The Predator? Now I'm mixing them up because I'm like, which one was which? Anyways, I'll have the picture here. I might be mixing up the names. Anyways, this one is the second part. The last one ended on a cliffhanger. I don't want to give too much away, but basically Elise was kind of like sold to his like grandfather because he owed her father is like, I think he's the chief of police or high up in the police, and he owed a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. And his grandfather had gotten killed, and she had a really bad, like was shot too. It was like a really bad opening in the first book. Where there's a lot of secrecy of like what happened that night. And she has basically been like the maid of Sebastian and his family. And so he has kind of bullied her in that first one to try and stay away from her because he's completely obsessed. By the end of that one, they do have a lot of primal play, some knife play, some fun action, and they are together. But it ends on a cliffhanger because she has this dangerous man from her past that her father was going to try and sell her to. And he wants her, and he shows up at the end of that. So in this, we open up right at that start where she's kind of taken Sebastian's, like, it's kind of weird. It's like his aunt, but also almost like a stepmom type of thing. She had big trigger warning for sexual assault because she had like made him have sex with her when he was underage and was like grooming him. And so she is still trying to get in there and like try and say she got pregnant with his baby. So that's all this drama going on too. But basically Sebastian has to race to try and save Elise, and then he kind of basically forces her into a forced marriage to keep her safe, but also because he wants her. And so there is a little bit of a breeding kink in here, maybe some birth control, tampering. I love that, so I don't mind it, but just a warning. So I really like this one. I didn't love it as much as the first one, but I still had a really great time with it. Trigger warnings, again, are sexual assault, abuse from a parent, kidnapping, drugging, there's breeding, and then birth control tampering. So that one I ended up giving 4.5 stars to. I went between 4 and 4.5. I decided to give 4.5 because it's an arc, so I rounded it up. And then it was 3 chilies. Okay, so the last one that I have from last week, you can see I didn't have that much because I had some longer fics that I was doing. I read Psalm 42. This is by Unicornpoe. This is a really pretty quick one. It's a Dean and Cass DL one from Supernatural, so it's DL. I really wanted to get some read. So this one, I read one from DL last year, and it wasn't that great. I didn't like the way they made Dean's character kind of a little bitch, and that's not who Dean is. This one was much better, and this is basically Cass is like sent back in time for reasons, something that had happened, and it takes him back to when Dean was 23. This is before, basically before season 1, because Sam is still at school, his father's still alive, all of that. And so Cass basically tells him he's an angel, and he's like, what the fuck? I don't believe you, dude. But they end up kind of going on this road trip, doing hunting and all that kind of stuff. And, Cass is just so in love with him, and he can tell, but he misses his Dean from the future and what will happen if he gets sent back, So it was very sweet, very cute. The only thing I didn't like was that they made John Winchester into a monster. He was not a physical monster, but he was physically abusive to Dean. Now in the show, he does have some abusive parenting because he literally taught his kids how to be hunters and left them unattended, and Dean basically kind of had to be a parent to Sam. But in this, he's full on beats the shit, tries to beat the shit out of Dean and is abusive. So I wasn't a fan of that because I love John Winchester, but that was just a minor thing. So I would definitely recommend this. This was about 44,000 words, so not too long. It's a pretty quick one that you can do, and I had a good time with it. Okay, so on to the next week, this last week, I went on to read more fanfic, and I read The Potion Master's Baby, and this is by Snape's Goddess, and this is a Snape and Hermione one, and this was one of my favorite ones from the fanfic readathon. I freaking love Snape. I cry every time in the last movie when Harry goes into his memories and we see everything that Snape has done and I just cry every time. So I love Snape. So I realized reading this that I need more Snape fanfic because I adored it. And it was so cute because it was like set after everything, after they beat Voldemort years later, and Hermione and Snape are both teachers at Hogwarts. Ron, like right before their wedding, he got in like an accident, I believe, and died. So Hermione's been alone, and she'd only ever been with Ron. But she wants a baby, and she hasn't had any connections or anything with men when she tried to date. So she basically kind of decided to do this artificial insemination type of thing. You know, get the donated sperm or whatever, and she picks somebody out, but there's a mix-up because Snape had his sperm. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube. He had his stuff stored in like the same area or whatever for like a potion, and she ended up getting his. So she ends up pregnant with Snape's baby. He is infuriated. She will not like stop the pregnancy. She wants a baby, and she's like, you don't have to be involved. But now that he knows that she's pregnant, he can't like stop thinking about it, and he wants to be involved. So then they start to kind of try and come up with a plan to co-parent together, and then they realize they're really attracted to each other, and so they decide to make a go of it. And it is so sweet. It is like really swoon-worthy. I just really loved it a lot. So I would highly recommend this one. Okay, so then I read an arc. I read Defens of Zone by Jodi Oliver, and this is the third book in the Chicago Thunder series. This is an Friends to Lovers sports romance. We have two best friends, Carter and Zach, and they have been best friends since they were 6 years old. They have a very, almost too codependent relationship with each other. They're very close, where like they even cuddled, like even in college, whatever. Like they don't care. They have physical touch. They're very like loving towards each other. And so they've had this very close relationship for many years. Zach is an NHL hockey star, and then Carter is in the NFL. So we've got football and hockey represented in here. The problem is Zach has been in love with Carter since he was like 10. He was more aware of, being, I don't know if he was bi or, because I think he did mention that he was okay with women too, but he's more like into men. But he has been basically in love with Carter since then, but has kind of had to hide it because he doesn't want to ruin the friendship. Carter's always with women. So like he just doesn't think it could ever happen. And since they have this codependent relationship, like literally on their off season, when their seasons like mix, like on the summer, they basically spend the whole summer together. So they go on vacations together. They're very much like almost a couple already. And so one time when he's going, Zach's going to go stay out with Carter at his house. Carter has a girlfriend now, and she's over there all the time, and it's just really hard for Zach to see. And then he kind of even brought up that she could be the one. And so he was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and be in love and pining for him and know nothing's ever going to happen and be this close to him. So he basically cuts his trip short and leaves. And Carter's pretty devastated because he also stops really engaging with him. They always FaceTime, text all the time, and Zach's being very quiet and kind of standoffish. So things kind of come to a head when he comes out to visit, and basically Zach lays it out like, I've been in love with you forever and I just can't do this anymore. And it's kind of like it just wakes up Carter. And then what ends up happening is Zach does get injured, and so he has a big injury. There's so much good caretaking in this that like it's bad concussion, bad stuff going on. So he actually Carter stays with him and takes care of him, and it gives him the time to really think about things, because he was finding himself jealous of like Zach talking to like a guy and all that kind of stuff, and he realizes, yeah, I am sexually attracted to him. So he realizes he wants to go for this because he's been looking for love in like all the wrong places, and it's been in front of him the entire time. So I really loved this. She did set this up in a world where it's like nobody is homophobic, basically. I mean, maybe unrealistic to like a lot of stuff you see that, and where it's the kind of conflict where you have to deal with people not wanting you to be together, especially in sports and stuff. So it was kind of nice to not have that be an issue in this. Like, everybody was super accepting. There's like multiple gay guys on the team and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I thought it basically takes out that angst or trauma out of the book, and it's just feel good. So this was a really good friends to lovers romance, and there was some really good spicy scenes. So I gave this 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read a really long fic. And I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm not going to go into them here because it would spoil it. And but let me tell you what it is. It's Secrets and Masks by Emerald Slytherin. This fic is long. It's over 450,000 words. So it is a long one. That's like kind of like reading over a book bigger than Outlander. So I will say a big warning to anybody that wants to read this. This is a Hermione fanfic, and it is dark. So it is dark. It has a lot of dark stuff going on, a lot of trauma, a lot of shit going on in this. But what affected me is it has an unconventional HEA. So I'm just going to say that and warn you. So this is actually set, where Voldemort, they're in war, they're going against each other. Hermione's basically a badass. She's like one of the top, warriors for the order. She's works with a spy that's spying from the Death Eater side, and he's giving them secrets. They wear masks and modulate the voice, so she doesn't know who she's speaking to, but she does get captured and basically kind of given to Draco he's supposed to go into her mind and try and get memories and find out about the order. So a lot of that kind of stuff that you see in Manacled here. The difference in this is there's some really dark stuff, like a curse that ends up being part of her that is really dark. So I don't want to give things away. This is a long fanfic, a lot of dark stuff, a lot of trauma. It had some really good Hermione moments in here. I really did one thing that was really cool was Draco was basically the top Death Eater type of thing, where he was a different version, and he also had a dragon, so he was a dragon rider, which I fucking loved. So there's a lot of good stuff in this. It's really well done. I listened to the podfic. It is on Spotify. So if you're okay with it not being with it being an unconventional HEA, and you're okay with the trauma and heartache, I would definitely recommend it. But if you're not, I would not recommend it. So that's what I'll say. I do give spoilers on my issues in my vlog. So when I post that, if you're interested, definitely check it out, because I do go on a little bit of a rant. So it was traumatic. The other thing in that, though, was Theo was fucking amazing in that book too, that fic. So I'm loving Theo. I love Theo. So okay, so then I listened to an ALC of My Greatest Joy by Brooke Fox. She's re-releasing these, I believe. And so I am on her ALC team, and I got an option to get this one. I didn't get the first one, but I did get this one. This is the second one in the Maplewood Falls series. And this is my first Christmas, basically, book of the year. And it was really cute and very heartwarming. And I just love, it was a reverse Grumpy Sunshine type of thing. So we have Fallon, and she has come to Maplewood Falls, to write. She's a journalist. She's going to write a piece on all their holiday Christmas activities and how the town is really into this. And she's not really about it. She hates Christmas. She has her reasons. And she's not happy about it. So she's renting a cabin there, and there's a cabin mix-up here, rental mix-up, because it was kind of a scam, and it wasn't a real rental. It was actually Levi's place. And so there's a funny meet cute where they first run into each other, and she finds out she isn't really renting that place, but she has nowhere to go. They also get kind of snowed in. But after the snowed in, there's a lot of tourists there for the holiday. She doesn't really have anywhere to go. So he basically says, you can stay here. And he realizes she hates Christmas, but she's writing a thing on their town about Christmas. So he's determined to kind of show her the beauty of this town. And so it will reflect better in the story. His parents I think owned like some kind of Christmas. Did they own a Christmas? Sorry, I read a few Christmas books, so I'm mixing some of these up. But his parents did like some kind of Christmas thing. I think it might be the tree lot. I can't remember. Anyway, sorry. He basically takes her to that so she can meet all these people and get to know the town. And so they're basically start to share the bed together, and then things go from there and things get a little spicy. But she doesn't live there. So that's where the complication comes in, and they want to be together, but she lives somewhere else. And how can they really make this work? But it was so cute. Like, it was really cute. I loved how much they opened up to each other. I loved how he like gave her the joy of the season again and all of that. So it's a really perfect like Christmas holiday type of book if you are interested. I had a great time. So I gave that one 4.5 stars and 3 chilies. It was narrated by Aiden Snow and Andy Arndt, who are two of like some of my favorite narrators. I love Aiden Snow. So it was fantastic. Okay, then I read another arc. And this one is one that I was highly anticipating, and that is Braving the Storm by Elliott Rose. This is the second book in the Crimson Ridge series. I was really anticipating this because I loved Chasing the Wild. Like, I loved it. That one was an ex-boyfriend's dad, and it was so angsty. Like, they're snowed in at the top of the mountain and all this stuff. Like, it really was like a slow burn, angsty read. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. And it's one of the best like ex-boyfriend's dads that I've read. It's cowboy. It's got all the good stuff. It's spicy, but it earns that spice. So that's why I ended up loving that one so much, and I liked it a lot more than this one. I did still enjoy this one, but I didn't connect to it as much as that one. In this one, we have Storm, which we were introduced to his character in the previous book, and he also lives on Crimson Ridge. He has, like, living in this cabin on his own. He was he's an ex-bull rider. You know, he was in the rodeos. He was, like, one of the top people that did that. So, like, he has lots of awards, but now he's got, like, kind of, like, a lot of mystery about him and, like, kind of drama about what happened in his past. But he has been basically living in this cabin, and he helps out the hero from the previous book a lot. And then we have Briar. Sorry, I forgot her name. We have Briar, and she is actually his niece. But hear me out. He was adopted into the family, and he has nothing to do with the family. He had a falling out with her father, and so like he was like adopted. He didn't watch her grow up or anything, so he's an adopted uncle. They're not related in any way. But she basically got given this cabin that he's been living in for years by her father. He had no idea that this wasn't his cabin. And she shows up to kind of get away from her toxic family. Briar has a very abusive, like toxic kind of family that basically they're very rich, and she has a lot of money and prestige, but she's kind of like forced into things she doesn't want to be. And so she just basically flees that and goes out to this cabin to try and live a different life. And she shows up, and then she's in there like getting in the shower, and Storm comes home, and he thinks it's like literally like a buckle bunny, you know, like that's just at his house because that's happened before. So he goes to her where she's like naked and is gonna like screw her, and then she sees who it is, and she's like Uncle Storm, and he's like, oh fuck, you know. So it's a crazy introduction, which should tell you that this is gonna be a super spicy book. So they end up deciding that they're gonna stay together while she's there. It's a very tiny cabin with only one bed. So they start with him being on the couch or whatever, but it's like very painful and whatever. And so they end up sharing a bed. So this book is like them trying to deny their attraction, but they don't deny it for long. Let me tell you, most of this book is smut. So my main problem with this book was it was so much spice, where I was skimming it from like most of the end of the book. Like I was like, okay, another sex scene. I needed more of a connection. In the previous book, it was such a slow burn, angsty thing where you're like waiting for them to get together. So when they finally do, you're all about that spice. And this, it was like most of the book was that. Now, if you're interested in a really spicy read, this is great. I mean, I didn't hate it. Her writing totally sucks you in. I love this world she's building with Crimson Ridge. You get to see the couple from the previous book a lot. I really liked Storm. I loved Briar. I love the characters. I just wanted less spice. So that's a me thing though. And I still rated this high because I did really enjoy it. Plus it was an arc. I just had some issues with the tons of smut. Like, we don't need that much smut. But this is that type of book. So like they decide, like she realizes she likes free use. So that's a lot of free use in this. He has like a cuff that he puts on her. So like anytime that she's okay with being used, anytime, any night, basically any time of the day, she has that cuff on. So it's a green light. If she doesn't have it on, then he knows he can't do it. So she does have a say. It's not like that creepy type of free use. It's like, it's fun. So there's lots of kinky times in this. It's a spicy read. I enjoyed it. I just didn't connect to it as much as the first one. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. It's probably more of a 4-star, but I upped it because it was an arc. And I did appreciate a lot of the character growth and stuff, the journey that Briar goes on because of her toxic history. So, and then I gave it 4 chilies. Okay, so then I listened to an audiobook. This is Jen's pick for her book club with Crystal, for Crystal's Bookish Life. And this is All Through the Night by Connie Brockway. This is the second book in the Royal Agent series. This one was okay to me. I enjoyed it. I've never read Connie Brockway before, so I didn't really know what to expect. This is available on Read and Listen for free if you have KU, so it's a good option for you. I enjoyed the audiobook. What it is we have Anna Wilder. She is a widow, and she's basically has a big secret because she's also this like thief. She like climbs up like on the roofs and at night, and she's like stealing from like the elite class and all that kind of stuff, but she's part of that class. So it's kind of weird. But she's doing that. And then you have Colonel Jack Stewart, and he's set up. He's kind of like a spy, does really the tough stuff people don't want to do. And his job is to find this thief. So he almost catches her one night, but he realizes she's a woman. And so they share like this hot kiss, and she manages to get away. And then he quickly figures out who she really is in the ton when he meets her. And so it's their kind of dynamic and everything. And there's this whole thing trying to find the thief because she stole an important letter that is connected to the king, or like all this stuff. So I really enjoyed the romance element of this, not the espionage like letter. And then when the ending with the letter happened, it was just kind of over the top to me. And I just didn't really buy into that, but I thought the romance was really good. I felt their connection. There's some good spice in this. They actually really opened up about like their previous traumas, because she was married before, but she married a guy that was like so devoted to her, but also in like kind of a toxic way where he said she didn't love him enough. She didn't love him like he loved her. And he like kind of went off to join the Navy type of thing when he was not suited for it because she didn't love him enough, and like blamed her for his death basically. So it's some tragic shit. And then he also has trauma and stuff. So I love that they really talk things out, and they communicate. You can tell that they're falling in love with each other. So I like the romance, just not all the like plot stuff was just kind of. And then there was a side plot with this Sophia chick that I'm like, what is the point of this plot? So those are the things that kind of brought it down to a 4-star for me, but I really did enjoy the romance. So I did give it 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. So the last book that I read, I listened to an ALC, and this was Once Upon a Christmas Tree by Lulu Moore. This was freaking adorable. So this is a novella, and it's actually setting up a new series that she's going to be releasing in 2025. And it's going to be about these like aristocratic type of lords. They're brothers. They're from, the UK. They're British nobility type of thing. And so in this, we have Alexander, and him and his brothers basically take one of their brothers got left at the altar in a really tragic way. And so they're like, we need to escape London, get out of here. So they fly out to Aspen and to go, skiing and just chill and relax. But it happens to be during the holiday season, and this town is very into the holidays. They have tons of cute Christmas activities. And in this one, we have Alexander, who hates Christmas, and he does have a good reason because it revolves around his father's death and how he felt responsible. So it's like completely understandable. And then he basically meets Haven, and she is all about Christmas. Like, her family owned a Christmas tree farm. She owns a Christmas store. She like helps out everywhere in this town, like at the bartending, they have a gingerbread like competition. So he's like really into her. They have an instant connection, but she is very much into Christmas. But she doesn't judge him and like think harshly of him for his reasons. And he does open up later. And so there's just so many cute moments. The holiday, like, Hallmark Christmas vibes are all here. It's very sweet and cute and cozy holiday novella. It's very quick. And it's kind of the introduction to the brothers. So obviously, you know, he lives in London, she's in Aspen, so there's going to be a little bit the ending here. But I really loved it. It had really good spice. And I just thought there were so many sweet moments with Alexander, like with him, like he joins the gingerbread competition and takes it to the next level and does something in a way that's like a big, sweet, swoon-worthy moment to her. So I really loved it. I had a good time. This was narrated by Shane East, and his British accent is so hot. I could listen to Shane East all day, and CJ Bloom. So I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars and 2.5 chilies, and I cannot wait for that series to come out, because what was really good about this is she set up good character development on all the characters. You could see who they were. They all were very individual and funny, and it has great banter in this. So I just love the brothers, so I'm very excited. So this is a really good introduction to that upcoming series. So those are all the books that I read these last 2 weeks. Sorry, I'm trying to wrap this up quickly. I know I've probably already gone too long, but thank you so much for watching this video. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you're reading any of the fanfics or if you joined us. And let me know if you have some Theo ones. All right, thank you, and I will see you guys on the next one.